All right, Mr. G here. I'm trying something different with the new piece of software I got, but I'd like to do something useful with it. So here we're going to go. I'm going to take a melody, a pop melody of a very, very popular tune that you hear coming out of movies today. One movie in particular is called Frozen. This is the opening line to Let It Go. I'm going to play it for you here real quick. Here we go. All right, very popular melody, and I've labeled the chords above it using Roman numerals. It's a very popular chord change: 1, 5, 6, and 4. If you're in the key of C like here, then that's C to a G to an A minor to an F. And then later on I'm going to bring us back to one C chord. What I want to do is demonstrate how I go through writing a string parts for this, accompaniment part. If this is a melody that somebody gave me or a known melody that I already knew, or like I just transcribed here, and I'm going to write a string and accompaniment for it, I'm going to utilize portions of what I've learned using writing cantus firma and everything else that's come into play in my musical career in the last 30 years. I used to feel guilty about doing what I'm about to do here because when I start learning a principle, for instance, medieval music, from which cantus firma and how to write polyphonic parts with Palestrina and Bach and all them fellas, they write such incredibly beautiful music. And when I was beginning to learn the process that they went through and the rules that they use, I was very, very strict and did not do anything except what they said was proper and correct and right, because I wanted to, if not master, because I'm not sure if there's enough time left in my life to master what those guys have done, but at least to internalize the principles of what it was that made their music sound so incredible to my ears. And one of the basic things is that in that style of music, early medieval up into Baroque, the goal was pretty music. The goal was no dissonance, make it sound gorgeous and full and lush. So no dissonance. And when I started writing and arranging music for like movies or like films, not like I'm a huge movie film writer, but I have done a little bit of that, I quickly began to discover that dissonance is a very big part of the music that I love. And it wasn't part of that. So what I had to do is I had to make a decision. And the decision was, first of all, I had to come to peace with the fact that I'm going to mess with what they did. And perhaps back in that time it wouldn't have been considered acceptable. But I had to also realize that these musical geniuses, the Palestrinas, the Bachs, the Mozarts, the Beethovens, all these masters were not afraid to step out of the box. And were not afraid to play with what came before them. Now we have the benefit of nearly a century, nearly a millennia, 1,000 years worth of looking back to see where music has come from the beginning to now. And I really feel in my gut that if Mozart or Beethoven or Bach or any of these gentlemen were alive today, that they would utilize everything that had come before them, just like they did. And that they would change things up. And they wouldn't be afraid to take what came before them and utilize new things with it. So I said all that to say this. I had to get past the guilt trip of starting with a beautiful cantus firma and then messing with it and putting in dissonances and everything, stuff that they would not have approved of perhaps. But I really believe the heart and soul of writing music is to stand on the shoulders of the giants who came before you, everybody, and bring all the different things of your life and your experience and what you love about music and mix it all up. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm taking a popular melody. I'm going to start off writing a pseudo cantus firma, and there's going to be problems with it. You're going to see that, but I'm going to fix the problems. And then what I'm going to do is once I get a cantus firma written with two voices, two voices, then I'm going to alter those lines to make them a little bit more interesting melodically and rhythmically. And then I'm going to add a third voice, and that introduces a whole different set of problems. And what you're going to see as we go through this process is that I'm going to start with my template of the two voices I'm going to write, and then as I start modifying the melodic and the rhythmic parts of these lines, I'm going to have to alter what I did originally in order to make it fit the way the line is starting to grow. Because that's one last thing. When I'm writing or composing a piece of music, I always set out with an idea of what I think it's going to be. And I'll map it out, like I'm going to do here in the next few segments. And then what I do is, as I start changing and altering and writing and getting into the nuts and bolts of what I'm trying to do, it almost always takes on a life of its own. And I have to not be afraid to change what I started with, realizing it's merely a springboard to launch me into the creative process. As I start modifying things, I start hearing lines in my head. I start hearing where I want this little snippet of melody to go. My goal is to write 3 parts that sound interesting in and of themselves, and that when they come together, they will form a really good background for to frame this melody. So having said that, let's get started. I'm going to be uploading this stuff in segments so that it doesn't make one humongous video. So this is obviously part 1. I've explained my philosophy, what I'm going to do. I've shown you the melody. I've played the melody for you. And in part 2, I'm going to lay out a basic cantus firma and one accompaniment part. And then we're going to use that as a springboard. All right? Mr. G out. Bye-bye.